Okay. Everyone ready to wrap up this flashback? Well, we're not quite there yet, but the end of this chapter is the beginning of the flashback that started all the way back in June. That's right, June. It's getting close to 6 months. This is one of the longer flashbacks in One Piece, to be sure, but we're getting there, This will be One Piece, chapter 1168, titled Elbaph! Snow. Elbaph snow. Snow in Elbaph. Elbaph has winter, and winter leads to snow. So Elbaph snow, the snow of Elbaph. And you know, winter is symbolic of death, which I don't think that'll line up with anything in this chapter whatsoever. I don't think Oda even utilizes symbolism in his story. I don't know, man. I've been reading One Piece for a long time, and I haven't seen a single bit of symbolism in there. You tell me what's symbolic about a silly little straw hat. Nothing, that's what. You tell me what's symbolic about Gaimon being trapped in a treasure chest. Absolutely nothing. You tell me what's symbolic about Nami having a magic rod that extends with a cloud living inside of it. Yeah, there's no symbolism whatsoever. All right. So the cover page, the cover request is Hachi shoveling some snow. You know, I don't know if it's Elbaph snow, but it's just snow. And there's a bunch of little sheep that are so grateful for Hachi shoveling the snow that they're pouring him some coffee and they knitted him some mittens. So Hachi's putting on the mittens. Have you ever shoveled snow without having any proper hand protection? It's very cold. It's not very comfortable. So that's really nice. Hachi's very happy there. He's also shoveling snow with like a regular metal spade. I mean, you could do it that way, but you got to get some snow shovels, you know, Hachi. That's the way you do it. But what's symbolic of Hachi shoveling the snow for the sheep? Nothing, I tell you what. All right. So, let's see here. Chapter starts from all over the world, just like the last chapter did, really. This is still 15 years ago, all right? At the end of the chapter, we're going to move to 14 years ago, but right now we're still 15 years ago. And it's just the reception that now that Harald is working for the world government and the world government has not accepted Elbaph into their midst quite yet. They're really holding that off for later, you know, but they are opening up trade with the rest of the world. So we see some people on a random island reading the newspaper, and they're like, hey, you know, the Giants squad in the Marines, you know, they're all doing really good. They're really reliable. They're bringing in a lot of pirates. You know, one of them is like, you know, I always used to be afraid of giants. They looked really scary, but now I wouldn't mind meeting one. And there's another dude that's running a restaurant or perhaps a bakery, and he's like, hey, he's going over to like the food seller, like the merchant that's like dropping off all of the food supplies and things like that. And he's like, hey, you gotta stock more of this Elbaphian seafood. You know, the people love it. And the guy's like, oh yeah, it's in hot demand right now. I'll make sure to get an extra order just for you next time, right? So then we have Umit. We see Umit in this chapter. You guys all know Umit, right? Yeah, he's one of my favorite top 10 characters of One Piece, Umit. He is a shipping magnate. We see him during Big Mom's tea party. He's a member of the underworld, okay? And yeah, he's like the leader of like the One Piece equivalent of like FedEx or UPS. He travels the world in various ships and he drops things off. That's what he does, right? And so he's like, this here is top quality Elbaph cedar. So it's like he's shipping lumber to another nation, and they're like, oh, I'll take it. Oh, it's really expensive. It's hard to get my hands on. It's like, oh, I'll give you, shut up and take my money. 500 million berries for that Elbaphian cedar. Is it worth more or less than Adam wood? I would imagine a little bit less. By the way, the fact that it's mentioned to be Elbaphian cedar, does that mean the Yggdrasil tree is a cedar tree? No, it's probably something else. There's other trees that grow on Elbaph. It isn't just one giant big tree. But still, and also remember it was mentioned that the Adam wood tree, the Yggdrasil, that is not the only Adam wood tree in the entire world. There are others. So maybe Frankie got the material to build the Thousand Sunny. Maybe it eventually came from the Adam wood tree on Elbaph, but more than likely it came from another nation, another place. And the story that Frankie told about the Adam wood was more of like the origin version of it, but there were other trees, right? It's just the one on Elbaph's the one that ever got that big, okay? So, yeah, it's just going around the world to showcase that Harald's plan is working. I mean, the people of the world are beginning to accept giants more, especially because of the efforts of the giant squad in the Marines and all of the things like the seafood and the lumber and all the resources that Elbaph can provide. Being a nation of giants, it's really big, so you cut down one tree on Elbaph, that's going to provide lumber for like an entire town. I mean, like, it's really good there, right? So now we're cutting back to Elbaph in the New World, and so Harald is addressing his nation. He is standing up on part of the tree, and there's like a crowd gathering around him, and he has a den mushy microphone, or megaphone, I should say. He busts out the microphone. Hey everybody, I'm Harald. I'm gonna sing you my song about gathering all together and singing hands for Elbaph. We can all join the world government together. You know, okay. So he has the megaphone, he's addressing everybody. He's like, when we finally become a member nation, which the government hasn't done that yet, but they've promised me, ladies and gentlemen. I've been working for them hand and foot, you know, for the last several decades, and they marked me with a Faustian contract devil sigil. But they did say they were gonna, you know, welcome Elbaph into the world government, and I trust them, guys. I trust them. But it's like, I think we should start building, like, sightseeing ships, you know, so people can come and visit Elbaph and look around, and we can have tourism, you know, like tourism. That's how you know we hit it big, right? And so he's talking, and everybody seems to enjoy it. Everyone's just like, yeah, Harald, woo, tourism, yeah. Let's build like an Elbaph version of Disneyland, woo, you know, okay. So he mentions that Elbaph is in a rare minority in the world, that like everybody that lives on Elbaph in this country are giants. Right? And he mentions that, you know, from the perspective of the outside world, that's a little strange because, you know, in the One Piece world, you got humans and giants, but you also got snake necks and long legs and long arms and tontadas and fishmen and merfolk and wotans and dosundadas and, you know, all these different, you know, races that live all over the world. And yes, Tato Land is one of the places where they all kind of congregate together because of Big Mom's like dream and all that. But there's a lot of other countries where there's like people that just hang out, you know, it doesn't have to be like all just humans here. And so Harald mentions, you know, there are many nations out there with a wide variety of races that are coexisting together thanks to a cultural and mutual respect for one another. That's great. That's awesome. You know, you realize this, that the world government is probably doing just nothing to really hamper that, right? Like if, well, not even the world government, but like the Tenryubito and Emu and the Gorosei specifically, if they were just not in charge of this, right, then you'd feel like the people of the One Piece world would get along way better. Every time there's a barrier that gets thrown up, it is literally like the Gorosei or Emu, the Tenryubito that are behind that, especially with this. Like, the whole reason, like, remember at the beginning of this flashback, when Elbaph had that really bad winter and that famine, there were countries that sent aid to Elbaph, and back when Harald was traveling around with Ida and traveling the world, they were making connections and things, and then all of a sudden the world government showed up and is like, wait, no, you're not allowed to be making allies with other nations. You gotta go through the world government first. And that was the thing that threw up the wall, and then Harald had to deal with this bullshit for several decades. Like, if the Tenryubito never existed, this wouldn't even be an issue, but here we are, right? Too bad Harald cannot see over that wall. He just sees the wall and he's like, all right, what do I gotta do to gain entry through the wall? You know, it's just like, yeah, he doesn't realize that maybe the person building this, maybe the Tenryubito and Emu on top are evil. You know, maybe that's a thing. But anyway, let's join the larger world, friends. Let's make new allies and let's put away the warfaring nature of old and all that. And there was even a giant in the crowd that's even like, yeah, let's ditch all this warrior crap. You know, it kind of lost its luster anyway. You know, at first it sounds cool, right? You get yourself a neat Viking helmet and a sword and a shield, and you go into the battlefield shouting for Odin and Thor, you know. But, you know, how many times can you do that before it really just gets boring as hell? You know what I mean? I would imagine at least twice. I imagine on the third battle, it would just be like, oh, we got a battle today? All right. Othin! Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, it's like, okay, I'm bored. Yeah, let's ditch this warrior crap, right? And so Harald is up there, and he's like, I'll make it happen, Ida. Don't worry. Your wish will come to fruition. So then we cut over to by the way, I think Ida's fine. I think she's okay. I think she's on the mend. You know, he's up there thinking about her. I think it'll be fine. So we cut over to the Walrus School. This is about, you know, 5-ish, 6-ish years since Harald met Saul and told him to build the school next to the library. So we see it here, and it looks pretty much the same as it does currently. We see the kids all playing, and then we have Harald and Saul, you know, hanging out, just kind of like observing the school and just being like, this is impressive, Saul. I'm glad you built this. It's all thanks to you. And then Saul is like, yeah, better sharp kids than sharp blades. You know what I'm saying? So that's a nice little saying there that Saul said. But he actually does turn, and remember, Saul is not from Elbaph originally. He is from an island in the South Blue, which may in fact be Samuanai, the same island that Ida was from, because she also mentioned she was from an island in the South, right? So this is not like the culture that Saul grew up with, right? He grew up hearing stories about the Elbaph giants and how like warmongering they were and everything like that. So I'm sure it came as much of a surprise when Saul was welcomed into Elbaph, and then the king of all people tells him to build a school, you know? So it's crazy. So Saul actually turns to Harald and is like, aren't you afraid that you might be losing something here, Harald? You know, like your marbles, for instance. But no, he's like, aren't you afraid that you're losing something? You know, like, you know, Elbaph was this one way for a very, very long time, and now it's transitioning into something else. And is that okay kind of deal? Do you have any reservations about that? Is kind of what Saul is saying. And Harald says, you know, I don't believe it's military might that makes a country strong anymore. It's because of everything that Ida taught me over those years. Meeting her was the greatest blessing of my life, to really open up my eyes what real strength of a nation is. And with that, we shift and zoom in on Ida's tombstone. Damn it! Ah, oh, man, I was really hoping. Look, I wasn't really holding out hope, honestly, because we didn't see Ida at all in the present. We know that it was, by the way, really quick. When we first got to see Elbaph properly, right, when Shanks was at the bar and we meet Colin for the first time, and Shanks is there with Dorian Broggy and he goes and fights Kid, did you think there was going to be a whole backstory on that tavern on the side of the shore? Did you think that was going to be, like, relevant or pertinent to the story? It's like, yeah, you know that random building that's on the shore of Elbaph? Yeah, we're going to do a whole backstory on the lady that built that, and it's going to be sad as hell. That's the thing that Oda does, man, right? And then Mato, who is the bartender, that she has a whole backstory too. So anyway, yeah, I wasn't expecting Ida to make it through, but I was hoping a little bit. Maybe she retired from working at the tavern. Maybe she was traveling the world because she liked to do that. Maybe she went somewhere else. It was possible she could have made this out alive. Oh man, Loki doesn't just get one dead mom, he gets two. Estrid and Ida. That's just sad. So we get a flashback within the flashback when Harald remembers the last time he got to meet Ida, his first wife and the mother of his first child, Hyrudin. And she's there in her deathbed, essentially, and he's there sitting next to her. This is after he got back from Marijwa, after he got the Shallow Covenant tattoo. And she's like, hey, Harald, you know, Elbaph has really changed a lot. When I first came here all those years ago, I got to admit it was rather scary, but you've changed everything, and I'm so proud of you and everything that's happened and all that. Children laugh and study. It's like a totally different country than originally. And so Harald he's a little bit more, I mean, he's very extreme with it. He's like, yeah, that's right. All of our old customs and traditions, they're backwards and wrong, and I'm going to change everything. and everything from that era is going to be thrown in the trash can. And Ida's like, okay, well, you know, maybe not all of it. This is a little strange, actually, for Harald to be saying this. All of those bad practices from the warrior era will be thrown away. Okay, so I guess he doesn't say we're going to throw everything in the trash can, but I remember he was giving a speech, you know, several decades before this where he was basically like saying, hey, you know, we still have that warrior pride and culture. He wasn't talking about getting rid of everything. Do you think Harald's gotten maybe a little bit more extreme with it over the years? Because I remember that one speech he gave, and I have to go back and look at, like, the verbiage of that speech. But it was a while ago. That was, like, 80, 90 years ago, and this is only 15 years ago, right? So maybe at first he was like, no, everybody, we can keep the warrior stuff, but we can also do peace. Now he seems to be going full steam ahead with, like, no, all the warrior stuff in the battle, all that, we're getting rid of that. We're moving to this. You know, it's way more of a quick transition of a move here, okay? But Ida says, you know, I like the whole warrior's pride part. Like, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, just don't go to other islands and, like, burn them down and ravage them and kill people. Like, you don't need to pillage anymore. We don't need to do that. But when it comes to, like, pride, I guess, you know, something forming like somewhat of like chivalry, maybe along that, maybe not quite chivalry, but you know what I mean, like something along those lines of like a warrior code, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? She even thinks it's really cool and how you should cherish the culture. You shouldn't like try to destroy everything and start new. You can build on the bedrock that existed beforehand, right? And then Harald is like, don't you get it, Ida? It's that very culture that keeps us from marrying. No! No, Harald! Culture doesn't do shit! Traditions don't do shit! It's the elders! The elders are the fucking problem here, all right? By the way, two things, actually. Number one, you could just wait for the elders to all kick the bucket. There can't be that many years left for them. Second thing, was Elder Jarl included in this? Elder Jarl is an elder. I wonder, because Harald and Jarl seem to be on good terms with each other. They seem to be good friends. So maybe Elder Jarl was like trying to, you know, beseech the other elders of the villages to be like, hey guys, when they do the Elbaph reverie, when they probably do. They probably have some meeting of all the elders from all the villages that get together. Jarl's probably there. He's like, guys, can we just let Harald get married? No, we shall not allow that. Okay, sorry, Harald. I talked to them, but like, they will not budge. So, I don't know, man. Just wait for the old guys to kick the bucket and then get married to Ida. Or just get married. Once again, here's the thing. We just see in this chapter, I'll just bring this up again. I shook my tablet so hard it reset everything. He clearly has the support of the majority of the population of Elbaph. There were a bunch of people in that crowd that were all cheering Harald on and like, yeah, you know what? I don't even need to be a warrior anymore. Now, I'm sure there are holdouts. I'm sure there's people that are like, screw you, Harald. I was born a warrior and my dad was a warrior and my grandpa was a warrior and I'm gonna die a warrior too. I'm sure there's people like that. The elders are most notable. But like, if Harald just went out and got married to Ida and the elders were like, "Rah!" You know, like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna raise an army against Harald and be like, you have violated the laws of Elbaph, Harald. We shall raise an army to oust you as the king. I don't think they're gonna get a lot of support on this. I think the only support they're gonna get are like a couple of random like old people that are just like, "Ah!" So I think that's all they're gonna get. I think the majority of Elbaph stands with Harald, really. And if he's like, hey, by the way, can I get married to the woman I love and who's the mother of my first child? Yeah, Harald, we don't give a shit. Go ahead. It's like, okay, thank you. You know, and let the freaking elders be pissed about it. Who cares? But anyway, he's directing it at the culture and the tradition when it's like really honestly a group of like what, like maybe like 12 old dudes that are like the real holdouts here. I don't know how many villages there are in Elbaph. I don't know how many elders there are, but there can't be that many, you know what I mean? Anyway, so he gets upset. Ida just kind of laughs it off and just says, you know, you always did say you wanted me and you to get married like officially. That is the sweetest thing. You're so cute, Harald. Thank you so much. You know, and what about Loki? And then Harald is like, well, even though they're not, like, you know, full brothers and everything like that, I think they're always, they are brothers. They are brothers, Ida, right? And you've always thought of him as your son, and that's great. And Ida's like, yeah, you know, that just, like, thinking about them keeps my heart full and keeps me going all this time. It's okay. You're everybody's king, Harald. Everybody's gonna love you. You're gonna do great, right? We're almost there, right? We're almost part of the world government. Everything's gonna be okay, right? And Harald stands up and he's like, yes, of course, Ida. Everything's good. Everything won't be long. Soon we'll be connected with the whole world, tens of thousands of times bigger than Elbaph. And we could travel. We could travel just like in the old days. Yeah, that would be really tragic if I died right now, wouldn't it? Oh, it would be. I would cry a lot. Anyway, we could travel the world. I'm gonna go book the tickets. Ida? Ida! No! Ida dies. Her last words are, that sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to it. And literally, as Harald is reaching out, as they hold hands, her hand falls and she dies right there. My God, Oda! If I knew there wasn't any symbolism in this story, I would think that's symbolism right now. But no, it can't be. She just died at the worst possible time. Oh, it's really tragic, honestly. It's even made more tragic that, you know, just the way Oda conveys that. It's just two panels of Ida reaching out, grabbing Harald's hand, and, like, right before they're about to, like, close hands and actually, like, hold hands together, her hand just goes limp. And that's it. That's how you know she's dead. The next scene, we see Harald arriving back, and he runs in, and he's crying over his mom. We see, by the way, there was the doctor, the giant doctor that was trying to help Ida in the last chapter. We see him again here. He's actually a member of the Giant Warrior Pirates. We actually see him at Egghead. He's the one that was, like, dual-wielding pistols. That was, like, he was actually just in one of the last episodes, so I missed that guy. But, yeah, he's there. We see, Harald, Gerd, Mato. We see, is that Ripley and Colin? I mean, Colin would be, like, this is 15 years ago. Colin would be 5, so I still think he would probably be a baby at this point. Yeah, he is still a baby because we see him a year later during Shanks's and Gabon's when they were visiting, and you know, he's still, like, cradling him, so that couldn't be Colin yet. But we see Rode and Goldberg and everybody there. They're all crying over Ida. Ida died with a smile on her face. I don't think that means she has the will of D or anything, but, well, okay, she does have a D in the middle of her name. Her name was E.D. That was the will of D lives on. Just there you go. That was her full name, just 3 letters. But the middle letter was a D, so I'll go with it. Anyway, she dies, Harald cries. Loki is in a detention center. He's actually in the prison tower where the Straw Hats get thrown, like Rhodes' playground that he converted into his little diorama set. That castle in the underworld. Loki's in prison there right now. And he obviously, like, doesn't know what's happening, but at the same time, like, right when Ida dies, he kind of takes the brim of his hat and kind of lowers it a little bit, like he knows. Like, the one person that ever gave him, like, motherly love that he actually cared about. And when she dies, he knows that because he was there when the members of the alcohol village were telling him, like, we poisoned her, Loki, isn't that great? By the way, they were mentioning, like, inheritance last time, and I was a little confused. A lot of people came and explained it. Now, it is about inheritance, but inheritance isn't really the right way to frame it. So, because Harald had 2 children, Hyrudin with Ida and Loki with Estrid. The elders and the old folks, as part of the alcohol village where Estrid was from, I guess they were worried that, like, well, wait a minute, if Harald gets married to Ida officially, then that means Hyrudin might become the next king, which means Loki doesn't become the next king, which means people kind of forget about Estrid and Loki's family line. So they were bragging about it to Loki, because they were like, hey, Loki, we
finally secured your spot on the throne. Isn't that great? We poisoned her. Loki.
You know, and then Loki murders them all and burns the whole village down, which is why he's in prison right now, okay? Not exactly sure how they were able to, like, grab Loki and throw him in there. That probably was interesting in its own right. But yeah, that was the reason. I guess they were worried that, like, oh, if Loki becomes the new, you know, king after Harald, that means that he'll favor the alcohol village, I guess. Loki didn't really seem to give a shit about anything like that, but whatever. It's like, if Hirunden becomes the king, then, you know, they won't care about us too much, because, you know, Estrid won't be, you know, remembered or something. I don't know, but they were doing it sort of like that. They were hoping that Loki would be the next king rather than Hirunden. I guess that was the idea. Anyway, they're all dead now, so it don't matter. So, we see the snow indeed falling on Elbaph, as Loki is in jail, just kind of like, you know, a single tear falls. Okay, we're cutting to 14 years ago now. So this is at the beginning of the flashback when Loki and Jarl arrived at the castle, and Shanks is visiting Elbaph and seeing Gabon at this time. So we're in Marijois, and they are mentioning that Shanks is missing. He didn't show up for his promotion. Okay. So Shanks was supposed to get the Deep Covenant, the silver package. They were supposed to upgrade from bronze to silver. Shanks isn't there. He's MIA, right? And so, it was like, unfortunate. You know, these are the Gorosei. If he would have visited, if he would have been here after his last mission, we would have promoted him, but he's gone. Oh well. Our second choice was you, Harald, so do you want to do you want to meet, you know, Emu, the Shadow Ruler of the world, and make a Deep Covenant today? We already have everything set up, you know, and Harald's like, well, absolutely, I will naturally accept the honor of being a God's Knight. So, Shanks left, right, and you know, he went off there, and we know he's going to be in Elbaph around this time. So there's a theory out there right now. I've still yet to make a video about it, though a lot of other YouTubers have. The theory that at some point, Shanks and Shamrock switched places with each other. Okay, either that Shanks is on Shamrock's side or Shamrock is on Shanks' side. I'm going with the latter for right now. Instead of Shanks maybe telling Shamrock about everything about the lower world and Shamrock being like, ugh, you're disgusting. You mingled with pirates. Wouldn't it be cool if Shamrock was actually swayed by that and was like, yeah, that actually sounds really cool. That sounds neat. I want to do that, right? So they maybe did a Parent Trap type situation here. Now, the two distinguishing traits that Shanks has that Shamrock does not have, right? Well, I mean, Shamrock has longer hair too, but that would be easily enough. Shanks would just have to grow his hair out. Nothing big there. But Shanks, where's Shanks? There you go, Shanks. Okay, he's got the scar over his left eye that was given to him by Blackbeard, and he's also missing an arm right now, right? And we see Shamrock at, you know, Elbaph. We see him, you know, attacking Loki with the Cerberus blade and everything like that, and he clearly has two arms, and he clearly has, you know, no scar. So, but what if at this point, 14 years ago, they switched? So that would mean the guy that went to Fuchsia Village and met Luffy and everything like that, that was actually Shamrock the whole time. Well, wait a minute. What about the scar? Because clearly we see the scar, right? What if they both have scars? And what if when we see Shamrock, when he was attacking Loki, he was just covering up the scar? I mean, it's not like he's missing an eye. He just has the scars, right? So what if one of them has the scar from Blackbeard and another one, you know, maybe inflicted the same kind of scar for the sake of, like, being the same, or covering it up with makeup or something like that? Like, there's a bunch of ways you could do that. There's even ways you can even fake the arm thing, honestly. Like, we see the guy with, you know, has an arm on the sword. You could do a prosthetic with, like, a glove over it, like automail or something. I don't know. I haven't figured it all out exactly, but it's not impossible. When you have characters that are identical twins in a story, you always got to expect that one of them might switch, okay? So just just bear with this, okay? This might pan out to something, or maybe it won't. Either way, Shanks is missing, so Harald is going to take the promotion instead, all right? So they start walking over to the empty throne room. There's actually kind of a funny panel where the Geoise are walking down a hall, and then you just see Harald's big-ass boot behind them, and just like, wow, I guess the hall is catering to, you know, giant height. I wonder if that's relevant to something. I don't know. So the Geoise are walking down the hallway, and Harald couldn't be happier. This is the day everything happens for him, right? This is when his ticket is punched, as it were, right? It's like, congratulations that the Great One has placed so much trust in you, Harald. It really is a great honor. It's been a long process, but you will be remembered as a king who brought great change to Elbaph. Great change indeed. And Harald is like walking into the empty throne room, and he's like, well, thank you, Geoise. I really appreciate it. You've been so accommodating to me all these years. But, you know, thanks. But I gotta be honest with you, you know, I was really thinking about after we joined the world government, I was thinking about settling down, you know? I was thinking about relinquishing the throne and passing it on to somebody else, you know? A younger man, more virtuous than I, should maybe take over. I'm still a remnant of that warrior, you know, class, and so I think it's best if I just step down after this. But, yeah, that's just an idea I was thinking of. And then that's when the Geoise are like, well, Harald, that is a matter for Moo to decide. Harald's like, wait, what now? wait, what now? Harald, wait, what? Who's Moo? Is there a cow? Is there a cow somewhere in here? It's like, no, he walks into the empty throne room. Now, because of how big Harald is, and he's like ancient giant size, he's very much almost eye level with Moo on the empty throne. Remember how the empty throne goes all the way up those like 3 flights of stairs? So Harald is like here, and Moo is like here. So it isn't quite eye level, but it's very close to eye level. So Harald just walks in, and he's like, why is there someone on the empty throne? I thought you told me that it was the story of the kings, nobody sits on the chair or whatever. Like, what's going on here? And Emu is just there like, come, Harald. Moo has been watching this entire time. Okay. So you just hear a massive scream coming from Castle Pangea. Like the panel expands, like the castle expands from the scream, from the effect, right? And you see Harald on the ground in pain as the mark transforms from the shallow covenant to the deep covenant, from bronze to silver, right? And it is the same symbol that we see on Killingham, right? So this is the next level up. We've yet to see the gold level. Maybe only the Geoise have that, okay? So we're still holding off on the Abyssal Covenant, but I'm thinking that is just the Geoise for right now. So this power, as Harald says, it's surging within me. It's chilling. Oh yeah, by the way, I should also bring up, remember that chapter? It was a while back, it was during Egghead. I think it was chapter like 1098 or something, when a good chunk of the chapter was unfinished. It was one of the chapters with Kuma's backstory, right? And a lot of it was like just, you know, really quick, like sketched and, you know, drawn on. This chapter has the same kind of stuff. It's not as much, but in the latter parts of this chapter, we see a lot of the sketch. So Oda, I think, might be... There's a break after this, which I think Oda needs to take it. So there's maybe an issue there. Maybe Oda wasn't feeling 100% and couldn't finish it on time. This will be corrected in the Tankobon, but more importantly, Oda needs to take a break, and there is a break after this. So, yeah, just keeping that in mind. So take care of yourself, Oda, please. Because we were getting a good chunk of chapters here for a while, back and forth. I mean, we had some breaks, but we've been getting a decent number, so it's okay to go on another break. So Marcus says that this is the power of immortality, Harald. And Top Man says it still sends shivers down the spine, like they are recalling when they received the power, you know? And so it's like, you are now beyond any wild monster. Emu has forged you into a great mighty weapon, right? And so Emu's up there sitting on the throne and just like, consider thyself an immortal knight in Moo's charge. You know, you are now sworn to me. And he says that, Emu says that. You are an immortal knight sworn to me. And Harald is like, immortality? I can't believe it. Now, Harald, return to Elbaph and carve an abyss pentagram in your castle throne room. That will mark the bond between us. Thy dearest wish shall finally be granted. Harald couldn't be happier. He's like, walked into a room, creepy shadow person sitting on the throne ruling the world that nobody should be ruling, gave me a cool little mark calling me his immortal knight, and then I'm sworn to his orders, and to carve a satanic pentagram magic circle in the center of my castle. I get my wish granted? Woohoo! Come on, Geoise, let's square dance. Come on down, do. Harald couldn't be happier. Oh man, you know what? We all know what's gonna happen after this, so fuck it at this point. You know what, Harald? These are the last few days that you get to enjoy happiness, so why not enjoy it? Get back home, have some cake, party, drink some ale, because yeah, at the end of the week, you're not gonna be feeling as good, all right? Why not? Like, yeah, come on, Geoise, let's have some cake. Hey, Emu, can we have some cake? Fine. Just cake, giant cake gets wheeled into the empty throne room. And just like, yeah, check it out, cake! It's like, fine, whatever, give it to him. The cake is in the shape of the abyss. It's abyss cake. Yes. Do the Geoise and Emu hold birthday parties? Look, Emu spends 99% of their time hanging out in Castle Pangea, or and the only company they have is with some servants and the Geoise. 5 old dudes are like their only company. Do they hold parties? Do they have pizza parties every Friday? They gotta do something to spice it up every now and then, right? Oh my god. Okay, so Harald returns to Elbaph. Incidentally, on the ship when they are returning, it spells Elbaph in English ELBAF, which was the original spelling of that word, because backwards it means fable. And everybody was like, oh, Elbaph backwards is fable. It makes sense. And then later on it was spelled ELBAPH. All right, you know, and so I've always preferred the original spelling of the word because backwards it makes sense. So we do see a sail earlier than this that does have this spelling, and now we have one that has this spelling. So this seems like something that also might be corrected in a tankobon, maybe not really sure. And Oda has definitely shown this spelling more often than this one, you know, so I'm guessing this was maybe a mistake, but I've always preferred the original spelling personally. Okay, so he returns to Elbaph at once, and he's like, as soon as this last mission is complete, everybody, Elbaph will finally be recognized as a member of the world government. At this point, if I was living in Elbaph, I'd be like, Harald, haven't you said that like 5 times already? Like, when are they gonna let us in? I know. They keep moving the goalpost back, but it's fine. Eventually, they're gonna let us in. This is when they're gonna let us in. Okay, cool. What do you gotta do? I'm not allowed to say. I gotta draw a symbol in the castle. That's it. Okay. It's not a demonic pentagram, is it? No, it's not that. Harald, it kind of sounds like you made a contract with the fucking devil. No, it was just like, well, nah, he was a cow. He was a cow, trust me, I made a pact with a cow. All right. So, Oust Castle, we go back to the castle there, and sure enough, Harald's the one that drew the damn pentagram himself. You know, he drew it right in front of his throne, and we see the castle in immaculate condition compared to, you know, where it is right now. Pentagram is there, and Emu is able to talk through the pentagram. So Emu is not physically there. We don't even see like a hologram, like a force ghost of Emu, just Emu's voice coming out of the pentagram, right? And so Harald is in the room by himself. The guards are outside like, is Harald talking to himself? What's going on in there? I don't know, dude. He drew drew some weird symbol on the ground, and he just started talking to himself. I don't know. I was like, well, whatever. You know, he's building the roads, as long as the trains run on time, you know what I mean? Anyway, so Emu, of course, begins to communicate with Harald and be like, good job, Harald, you drew the pentagram. Yes, great. So, are we good? Are we good? There's one more thing. Okay, one more thing and then we're good, right? Yes, one more thing and then you're good. All right, awesome. What is it? Mobilize the entire nation of Elbaph and form an army of giants that will serve my will. Oh boy. Wait a minute. I've tried to do everything to, like, get Elbaph, like, away from violence. That kind of goes a little bit antithetical to my entire life's work. Like I'm okay if they want to join the Marines or something. Like, I'm not gonna stop them. But, like, you know, we built a school now. We have a GED program, Emu, for God's sakes. Like, you know, I can't just go back to the way it was. It's like, I remember, Harald, remember when you walked into Marineford and ripped off your horns and pledged you would do whatever it takes? Oh, shit. Did I just doom my entire countrymen and sign a pact with the devil, and it turns out the world government is actually evil? Yes, we're evil! Oh, shit! Oh, damn it! If only I could have seen this coming! There were no signs whatsoever! Nothing at all along the way to indicate that the government was... Damn it! So yeah, Harald goes on about how I've done everything to free from violence, and Emu's eyes begin to appear, like the little hypnotic patterns appear in front of Harald. And he's like, you vowed to atone for Elbaph's history. You said you would even become a slave. No, you misunderstood. When I barged into Marineford and ripped off my horns and said I would be a slave, I meant just me. You know, I didn't think that you were going to use my status as the king of Elbaph to take Elbaph as... Oh, wait a minute. Did you think that meant you can make all of Elbaph your slave? Damn it, I did not think that one through! The burden of such history is too great for thee alone to atone for, Harald. Your entire race, all of the giants, must atone for this crime. And thou shalt not disobey Emu. Those who enter the deep sea covenant, you are now immortal. However, it comes at the cost of total obedience. Thou will carry out Mu's order regardless of thine own will. And so we see Harald beginning to, like, against his will, like, move forward to the pentagram. Like, he's trying to resist. He's like, wait, what's going on? Whoa, what's happening? You know, he's moving forward, and then he's, like, clutching the tattoo. He's just like, it isn't good. I'm losing control. Elbaph was never to be meant to, you know, be a slave to Emu. Yeah, there's only some way you could have prevented this, but I can't think of one personally. This is the only way this could have happened. So Harald does have a little bit of resistance to this. He doesn't immediately... By the way, I'm curious when Emu says, like, you will obey my will. He's not actually possessing Harald in the same way that he possesses, like, Saturn and Gunko. It's not like Emu is speaking through Harald. Harald is like, his body is acting on its own. So I'm curious if it's like, I don't want to mobilize the entire country to war. Would, like, the power of the Covenant literally force him to, like, not be possessed by Emu, but literally, like, make him go outside and, like, we shall now mobilize all of the armies of Elbaph? You sure, Harald? That seems the exact opposite of everything you've been trying to teach us for the last 50 years. Yes, we will do that now. Okay, mobilized. You know, I don't know how it would work, right? Exactly. But he shouts for his guards while he still has a little control. They come into the room and they're like, Your Majesty, what's wrong? Who are you talking to? Okay. He's got his sword out. You know, he's just like, all right, listen. This isn't gonna make any sense, but you're just gonna have to go with it, all right? You're gonna have to chain me to this pillar, first off. Like, why? Just listen to me. Chain me to this pillar, and then summon my sons at once. Hyrudin and Loki, now. And they're like, well, Hyrudin's not even here. He's off at sea. It's like, all right, well, summon Loki. He's in jail. Well, whatever, I pardon him, whatever. Just let him out. And summon Elder Jarl. I need Elder Jarl here, too. And so they're like, okay. And so they rush in, and he's screaming, and then we cut down to the realm of the dead, the last scene of the chapter. We see the prison where the guards are like, Loki, you're free to go. Go to the castle at once. Your father has summoned you. And Loki's just like, huh? Oh, okay. And so that's where we see Loki arriving at the castle. He came right from jail. He just got out of the detention center at the end of at the beginning of the flashback. Then we see Jarl's house. Harald and Jarl, they've met there once before when they were discussing the Galleria giants. And it's like, something's urgent, Elder Jarl. You must go to the castle at once. He's like, what's going on? And so we return to where this tale began 6 months ago. The day of the castle massacre, when Elbaph's most beloved king, Harald the Benevolent, lost his life. So we see the scene in silhouette at the beginning of the flashback where Harald is apparently like in the center and he's run through by all of the different blades. We see his mustache, we see the spikes off of his cloak. Not sure if he was Domi Reversi'd. Once again, I'm not sure why Emu didn't just do that. Like, why doesn't Emu just Domi Reversi Harald and give the order? Then again, if Domi Reversing you means that you grow the fangs and the evil eyes and everything like that, that might not work as a manipulation tactic because it's clear that something happened to Harald, like he's being possessed by an evil force. So maybe it's easier for him just to do it himself. But yeah, all of this stuff, like up until now, I mean, I've gone over it, you know what I mean? Like all of the things that Harald has done with the best intentions from his perspective, very short-sighted, when he goes in as the king of Elbaph and shouts to the world government, I'll be your slave, I'll do whatever you tell me to do if it means that Elbaph will be part of you. It's like, all right, you do realize you're the king, right? So you being the slave to the government means your people are also kind of the slave to the government. And Harald's here like, wait, I didn't mean that. It's like, well, you didn't really think about it too hard, did you? It's like too focused on one thing, Harald. Damn it. Okay, so anyway, yeah, there was ways to avoid this. There were a million ways to avoid it. Just don't get involved with the world government. Even if it meant like, all right, the world government is preventing me from carrying out my dream. I'm not joining them because they seem to be really corrupted. Like, did Harald ever even have the hint that they could have possibly been corrupted and evil? Because I feel like anybody, if you really pay attention to it, should be able to notice that, especially Harald. But then like, all right, this isn't working. You know what? We're just going to stay at Elbaph here because they want me to join some weird demonic covenant, and that's strange. I'm not signing any contracts here, so I'm going to stay behind and we'll work it out later. You know, maybe not in my lifetime, but the next lifetime. That would at least be better. But then again, Rox did die, and Ida died, and Estrid died. So maybe, like, Harald felt that, like, no, I need to do this in my lifetime. I can't just leave this for the next generation. I need to accomplish this in my lifetime. I need to open up the world, and then, or rather, he wants to open up the world to everybody. He doesn't necessarily, like, originally his goal is not to join the world government. He didn't even really know about that at the beginning. At the beginning with Ida, he just wanted to open the world up to Elbaph, and he was starting to achieve that. Then the world government gets involved, and is like, oh, by the way, there's this whole pyramid scheme you have to be part of. And then over the years, Harald was just like, all right, I'm going to be part of the pyramid scheme. I got to figure out a way to get involved. And just like, dude, you know, there was things you could do, but I understand he was guided by grief over the death of Rox, and then sadness over the death of Ida. And it's like, there's a lot of stuff driving Harald. But at the very least, we know that he doesn't mobilize the army of giants. We know that he forces his guards to, like, kill him if he starts going crazy. And that's when Jarl and Loki walk in, and then Loki probably slaughters all the guards in rage, and so nobody's there to tell the story, and then everybody thinks Loki just did it, and then he flees, and then goes out to sea, and then runs into Shanks eventually. Jarl gets a sword stabbed through his head. You know what I mean? So we all know how that goes, and so he probably doesn't remember everything because of the sword through his head, at least. So yeah, that's probably where this is going now. There's a break next week, and then we're moving back to that. I'll leave you with a question. I do have a question upon looking at this. Okay, so this happens 14 years ago, right? Emu gives the order, make all of the giants of Elbaph are military. You know, order them all to mobilize and fight with the Marines at once, all of them. And Harald, of course, is like, no, I'm not doing that. I am resisting. So he resists it. He gets killed, Loki leaves, all that stuff happens. Al's castle begins to just fall into ruin and disrepair. Then, 14 years later, Shamrock and Gunko warp in via the Abyss. and start the operation of kidnapping the children. And they're saying, oh, Harald really screwed the pooch on this one. And even Emu was like, you were supposed to summon an army, Harald. You failed. You know, and it's like, why did it take Emu 14 years to finally getting around to doing this? Time dilation, baby. That's why. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey? I'm thinking so. Because otherwise, that doesn't make any sense. The pentagram was always there. You could have always, it's like, okay, I order you, Harald, to raise an army. And then, couple of days, couple of weeks, a month at the very most, a month goes by. And Emu's there, where the fuck is my army? It's like, Harald has not gotten back to me in a month. You know, it's like, where is that army? Right? You think after a month or so, Emu would be like, all right, okay, we're sending some God's Knights over to Elbaph. We're figuring out what the fuck happened. You know, and they do that, but it takes 14 years to do that. So I think the time dilation has to happen. There's no other way this doesn't make any sense, right? Okay. Because, why wait that long, okay? So anyway, yeah, that's the end of the chapter. Break next week. I'm thinking one more chapter. of the flashback. We're going to see everything from the perspective of Jarl and Loki and Harald maybe giving some orders to his guards to stab him. And then we're also maybe going to see the shadowy figure that grabs the devil fruit. By the way, that legendary devil fruit, it's been mentioned by Rox a few times, like he needed it as part of his plan. But other than that, it hasn't really been addressed beyond, what is it, what type is it, or anything like that, right? So, yeah, we're gonna see about that and see where that goes, right? Okay, well, that's the chapter. It's not a very long one. Like I said, part of it was, unfinished. So I think Oda needs a well-deserved, Christmas break for sure. But we should be back in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching. Also, at the end here, I just wanted to bring up, I'm going to be doing my annual St. Jude charity stream. It should be on December 20th. That'll be not Saturday like tomorrow, or not next Saturday, but the Saturday after that, 2 weeks from now. I say it's tentative at the moment just because there's a lot of stuff going on for me in December. I have to travel and do a couple of other things. So right now I put it in for December 20th. If it changes at all, I'll let you know. I try to get them done before Christmas. It should be feasible this year, but we'll have to wait and see. In fact, it might be, we might have to move it to a Sunday or something else, but for right now, December 20th, you can mark your calendars for that, and I'll let you know. Okay. Anyway, thanks for watching again, everybody. And, yeah, here's to the end of Elbaph! Both figuratively, symbolically, as it were, and also very literally. And also the end of the flashback, too. All right, later, everyone. You know I was kidding about the symbolism stuff, right? Right here at the end, I felt like, when I was going on, I was like, Oda doesn't have symbolism. That was a sarcasm. That was a sarcasm. All right, later.